I just can't believe this is happening. I logged into that Zoom call as just a dude who wrote a play and is excited about this happening. I felt like an imposter in the beginning, like I didn't belong there. But afterwards, I realized that this really is a community. I think I've fallen in love with the theater community. All right, what's going on, comrades? I'm going to be talking to you about hearing my story come alive for the first time, while I'm actually going to be changing the strings for this bad boy. But first, we're going to start by just cleaning the fretboard, cleaning the grime and stuff on the guitar. And I also want to talk to you about what it was like listening to the first table read of the play. It was virtual, but it was still quite the experience. So let's get into it. All right, for this, obviously, we need the guitar. We need the holder. Strings for the future. We got the lemon oil for the fretboard. The guitar polish and the cleaner for the body. Little rag. And to take off the strings. So I was very excited about the table read, right? The director of the program called me a few days before to prime me for the realization that, like, since she understands that this is my first play, she really wanted me to come to the understanding that it's not going to be what I have in mind. And I was also told this by a dramaturge meeting that I had a few days before that as well with a young man named David. And there's a part in the script where I reference a lot of Tupac, and the character of Dolores raps it while she's in jail. She raps a few lyrics from Tupac's "It Ain't Easy," right? It's about him talking about jail. It ain't easy being me. Will I see the penitentiary or will I stay free? And there's also another part where everybody sort of sings "Keep Your Head Up," right, together. Ooh, child, things ain't going to be easy. And it's like a family sibling moment where they're kind of like joyously doing it. And another part towards the end where Jose, the young character, kind of recites "Dear Mama," right? And the dramaturge told me, like, in a way where a poet writes a poem and it's understood in his vocal inflections and in his understanding of the words. When somebody else reads that poem, it's not the same, right? They don't have the same ideas. And so he also wanted to prime me for, like, hey, this might not come the way that you intended, right? So when it comes to words like that on a page, you have to understand that another actor might read it differently and might understand it differently. And I didn't really get that. And I also didn't internalize just the changes that the director of the program was, like, telling me to expect as well. And as soon as the table read started, I completely understood what both of them meant. When it came to this is also my first time meeting the actors, right? So when it came to who they were and what they looked like, yeah, clearly it wasn't like what I pictured in my head, but I'm still excited that they were even doing it in the first place, right? And it didn't bother me. I didn't care, because for me to have even gotten to this point is a big deal. For me to even have this play and to have all this happening, it's it's still a huge deal to me. Like, at the beginning of this year, I was still waking up early, going to work, and kind of just doing these little creative things on the side. And now here I am with my first play in hand and ready to see the first show. So I don't care. I really don't care what these people look like, what they sound like. They are gods to me. They will forever live in my mind, rent free, as the people who took on my story and truly transformed it into their story. Now we cut. Boom. And so, yeah, man, they were reading the lines that I wrote. And so there was just something very powerful about that. There was an instance where one of the actors, Jorge, and he's one of the main ones, he wasn't able to attend, so the assistant director offered to read it. And this was also her sort of first instance with the fourth rewrite. So she couldn't really connect with the words the way the other actors could. And it wasn't like there was anything wrong with what she was doing. You could just tell that there was an energy shift when it came to her talking through her lines versus the other actors, right? There was a moment in the beginning where I was going to even offer to read the lines myself, but it was also the day of my son's birthday, on the 25th. And I just knew I wasn't going to be able to give the reading my full attention, right? I had my headphones in, the camera was off, so I was listening in, but I was still helping, my girl whenever she needed something, moving around. And so I didn't read for the part. And I also didn't want to step on the director's toes in any way. I could tell she wasn't used to having like the playwrights there for table reads, and I know that's not common. But I had asked the director of the program, not the play, but the program. I had asked her if I can kind of just look into the process, because I have to restate this. I'm not a theater kid. I didn't grow up doing any kind of theater productions or anything like that. So this is all new to me. And I really wanted to get a fly on the walls view of how this all plays out. And so, again, to Miss Leticia Diaz, who is the director of the play, I thank you again for allowing me to be present. I understand that at this point, it's her vision, right? I'm kind of done when it comes to what I can offer. And what was interesting was there were questions about, from the actors about, well, like Magdalena's character, who plays the grandmother, the matriarch. They were asking, well, where does she work? How heavy is her accent? How heavy is the kid's accent, even though they grew up in the United States? And in my mind, I knew the answers, right? Because they're based on real characters. But what was interesting was the director had this approach where she was like, look, everything I need to know is in the script, which also showed me, okay, I got to be more detailed oriented when it comes to the script in terms of accents, language. But she was like, hey, we have the play right here. You can ask away. And I kept my answers to a minimum, right? I did not want to overstep or anything like that. She also asked, or there's a scene early on where the young character Jose, he's 5 years old in the beginning of the play, and then towards the end he's like a middle teenager, and they couldn't find a child, or rather the process is too complicated to have a child actor. And so the same young man that's going to be playing Jose later is also going to be doing a sort of version of like a voiceover, and you're going to have to kind of do the whole theater of disbelief that this grown person is playing a child. But she also added that I could do some kind of addendum in the beginning of a play to help directors understand what they can do, right? And that was really good advice, because I have sent this play out to other festivals, and I haven't heard anything back. And it could be a possibility where these other festivals are like, there's a kid involved, we can't do this. And so that was definitely some good advice. But, when we started going through the table read, I was really thinking at first, writing it was pretty hard, but like sitting there listening to the actors go through the words, that was pretty hard, because it emphasized all the mistakes, right? Or all the places where I'm like, ooh, that drags on a bit too much. All those blending of the words don't make sense, or this dialogue doesn't sound too natural. And again, it's also a personal story, so it's hard to look at it with this objective, oh man, this is my story, but it's not being told, and I wrote it, right? It's not being told the best way it could be, because there's still a lot of rookie mistakes. I noticed it. But the actors were so professional, they just kept going with it and stuff. They made it work. But I wanted to I just wanted to crawl back to the computer, just rewrite the whole damn thing, man. But you know what? There were definitely moments where I almost teared up, man. And it was because not only were some of the words resonating with me, yeah, I wrote them, but still, there were some that were just like, oh, wow, that's a good line. But that mixed with the delivery of the actors and sort of the emotional responses from the other actors. Woof, man. I'm like, oh, this is going to be heavy. I think I'm going to cry on the performance big time. Again, when it came to the parts of Jorge, there was a slight lull because the assistant director, again, didn't really know the material like that. And so there wasn't a sense of urgency. I think that's the best way to describe it. A sense of urgency with her relationship to Jorge's character. And it was funny because I also realized there that he has the most lines in the play. So that problem was even more apparent, right? But then that also showed me, I'm like, okay, this actor, when I do see them, they have a big role to play, because they really are the mirror when it comes to how all the other characters interact. Because we see the revelation of Dolores, of Mercedes, of Magdalena, and Jose. We see it through the dialogue that they have with Jorge. And I didn't realize that when I wrote it, right? I didn't realize the importance of the call and response of dialogue, right? I think for a while, I think for a while I was just seeing it as like one thing, right? Like, okay, this is just a conversation that people are having, but really it's two things. It's what somebody is saying and what somebody is responding to that, and how they both interact in that call and response of conversation. It's really a dance. And hearing it for the first time made me realize that. And when I do work on my next project, I will keep that all the way at the front of my mind, that the dialogue is a dance. The dialogue is a verbal movement between two actors or two characters. So I'll definitely keep that in mind. The point of the dramaturge where he was saying like some of those lines wouldn't hit, I felt that when it came to the rapping part, right? The one actress, I could tell she must have listened to the song to give it, but it's a big difference when you've been listening to rap ever since you were a teenager and probably just heard the first song a week ago, right? There's just a different way that you hit the beats, the inflection points. And so I realized that I'm like, okay, I maybe had I think I had a whole verse of the rap, because it's just very apt to somebody being in prison and then using Tupac as like a way to kind of wanting to break out. But it probably would have been better served if I tried it a different way. Nothing you can do about it now. I'm sure that she's going to try her best to learn it and work it. But maybe the disbelief will be there a little bit if you don't have somebody who already knows the music. But then again, like, what the fuck do I know when it comes to acting? God damn it. Ugh. These fucking 12 strings, man. They're such a pain to change the strings. You know, when it came to writing the story and when I began marketing it, it was very weird for me because I felt like I was airing a lot of my family's like dirty laundry, right? I know it's my perspective, it's my version of the story, but still, right? These characters are based on real life, and they might see the play too. So I didn't want to make it cheesy, but you're still telling a story. And so you still have to make it dramatic. But once I heard the characters talking, I was listening very intently, and I realized that I wasn't really betraying anybody. I truly was honoring them in a way that I feel like the actors are connecting with these people in a very real way. And so even the parts where I'm like, man, is this cliche? The entirety, the whole, and the sort of natural rhythm of the dialogue, it just really holds up. It really, again, honors the characters. It honors the people that they're actually about. And the director of the show gave me props on the dialogue too. She was like, this is very natural writing. She's like, it's easy when it's actually based on something real because you can really dig through, right, the recollection. But I also, and especially in that third rewrite, I really tried to kill the cliches. Get that. Oh shit! Hold up. Let me toss out all these strings before my cats start going crazy. All right. Shake up this. Oh, we still got. Fuck. Gotta pop these little things out. Gotta find a place to put them too. throughout the process, I was feeling, I had my imposter syndrome come out. And I know other people must be feeling that when it happens, but again, I have to restate that this is my first time. And sometimes it just felt like I didn't belong here in this process. Yeah, the director herself said that she wasn't a big fan of virtual table reads, but the show is pretty soon. It's in a few weeks, and they just kind of got started with it. But that was on a Friday night from like 7 to 9:30. And the next day they were going to rehearse it in a park. The director's method is pretty cool, where she likes to rehearse in those kind of public areas to, I don't know, maybe get the jitters out. It was a very interesting choice, but imagine they had that Friday rehearsal going into Saturday, and I think they were also doing something Wednesday. And so they were going for 3 days a week for the next 3 weeks, with 2 tech rehearsals right before and a show on Friday, August 22nd, and Saturday, August 23rd. Again, this is crazy. I just can't believe this is happening. And so, I logged into that Zoom call as just a dude who wrote a play and is excited about this happening. I felt like an imposter in the beginning, like I didn't belong there. But afterwards, I realized that this really is a community. I think I've fallen in love with the theater community, because it truly is an act of collaboration. And I was seeing that right there in real time. And I was also remembering the conversations I had with the dramaturge and the director of the board. And I realized, man, going back to it, no man is an island. Like, it's not just the playwright. It really is all these people working together to bring my vision of a story alive. And I'm not talking about the director's sort of like visual version of what that story looks like, but the story in general. Like, this was a family secret that wasn't meant to leave the mouth. Like, I was just talking to my aunt about it. A few weeks ago, where she was very proud of me about where I am now in this process with the play. And she was saying how, when mom served her time, they didn't really talk about it afterwards. She just did the time and they kept it moving, And I thought that was so like badass, because I can only imagine what it was like during that moment. But, she was very proud of me for even bringing this story up and kind of trying to tell it in my own way. And so I guess to just have that willingness to take something and to take something that's from your mind and then put it onto paper, and then the courage to send that out to be judged, and then the honesty to have with your collaborators as the process begins to build. Man, that's community, right? That's what theater is, I'm learning. And that's turning trauma into art. And I'm just very excited about everything that's to come, man. But what about you guys, man? What's a story that you got that can maybe set somebody free? First, you got to start with yourself, right? What's going to set you free? But once you realize that that same story is probably going to help other people, I think that makes it more important for you to tell that story. So let me know what you think about it in the comments. And guys, thank you for listening. I'm fixing this thing because I got a show coming up August 2nd at the Listening Lawn. I'll drop another video about that this week. But until then, guys, have a great day. What time is it? All right, I got time before we got to go to work. Shit. Comrades, take care, man.